Good evening and welcome to the July 19th Quarry Valley School Board meeting. If you'd all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first order of business is to approve the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve as...
Motion by Mike, second.
Second.
Second by Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. General public comment. Is there any general public that wishes to speak to the board at this time?
Is this the time when we give our opinions on things? We were just
They state their name and their location.
Sure. Can you just state your name for the record for the...
Heather Parker. And we're just here because we want to find about the new curriculum that they want to adapt into our school systems. And
Can you be more specific about what curriculum we were referring to? Because I'm not aware of any new curriculum that we're adopting.
the quality, what is it? Equity. The equity.
Equity curriculum, we do not have an equity curriculum that we're looking to adopt, so I'm not quite sure what you're referring to.
Approved, those are warning.
You're not thinking of critical
That's a
race
policy. It's an equity policy.
So what is that? We wanted that.
That's what, yeah.
It's a policy, so we have policies across the SU, and the equity policy, I can hand it to you if you want to read through it, but
We read through it. We were hoping you could go down through and explain.
so what would be the specific question that you'd be looking for?
Well, there's a lot in general that I don't agree with on it. Anything that I think divides people up by color or any other issues like that, I don't think that type of thing should be taught in schools, and there's quite a few other issues that I don't agree with in it. I have my paper here.
Is this similar to the equity policy that was just approved at Essex?
I'm not familiar with Essex policy, so I can't speak on that.
It's like another word for like the critical race theory that's being banned in other states.
So we have not discussed critical race theory. There's no mention of critical race theory in this. The equity policy really is just designed to make sure that all students and staff members who work in our schools feel safe and have the resources necessary to be successful. That's at the core of the equity policy.
But in that teaching, what are specific teachings that they're trying to teach our children?
I can't speak on specifics in terms of there's nothing in detail about what is being taught. If you're asking if, critical race theory is being taught, no, critical race theory is not being taught in our schools.
How were you collecting? There was on the warning about collecting data based on race, gender, something. Annually, we're going to be collecting data. Annually, we're going to be training and teaching this. So how are we collecting data, and how are the teachers going to be trained to use the data in the classroom?
Well, collecting data could be something as simple as just, looking at our attendance reports, look at our demographics to see what our, makeup is. As we look at data, one of the things the state has asked to do across many different lines would be race, gender, socioeconomic class, special education, 504, where you look at how our students are performing. So as we look at the data, we're looking at where we can help our students across many lines be successful in our schools.
But where does that, is that like the registrations we fill out, or is that surveying students and asking them how they feel about gender and like what they,
So
are they?
So I don't know what you're specifically referring to. See, I'm looking at, when we look at achievement
Okay.
and things along those lines, when we have like MAP scores or SBAC scores or things along those lines, we're looking at how we can help our kids be more successful. And so as we look at demographics, so In regards to, like I said, what you're referring to, we've had no discussion about any of these things at this particular time. I know I've seen in national news and local news about this idea of this, somehow we're secretly indoctrinating students. We have no plans on indoctrination or anything along those lines. We have a curriculum that's in place. We have standards that are in place that are set by the state and by the federal government that we're expected to follow, and that's what we're going to be following.
So you're not teaching our kids that they're racist in any way right now?
Teaching kids to
That
be
they're
racist?
racist?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, that they're racist because of the color of their skin or anything
No,
like that.
in looking at our curricular standards, nowhere does it say that we teach kids that they're racist because of color of skin. There's never been discussion amongst any of us that that's a discussion that we'll have.
Well, I guess we don't know what's going on in individual classes because in kindergarten, my 5-year-old daughter came home and told me, about, how they all, and the other kids, they all went home and told their parents how they learned about different color people and brown people and white people and how Martin Luther King tried to make the world a better place, but how white people didn't like him, so they killed him. And my 5-year-old came home and told me that.
What school?
Proctor.
Elementary?
Yeah, I was disgusted. And I basically had to back up and be like, yeah, honey, I'm sorry. She was very upset and confused, as she should be, because she's 5. And, that happened a long time ago, and I had to back up. And that's what the librarian read to her. And so I called the next day, and I said, this is what was taught. And I asked other parents. Their kids came home too. Some, it went over their heads. Some were confused. And I was told that was appropriate or approved curriculum. Is that approved curriculum?
Can I just step in? I can't see who's talking.
Sarah Bourne.
Yeah, okay, Sarah, hi. So in terms of teaching race, did we talk about Martin Luther King? Yes, we did when it came up. So I think it's not real clear in terms of teaching students to be racist. It's about history with Martin Luther King. That was taught in the classroom and shared at library, yes. And there are books that talked about different colors in the books. So yes, we did talk about that during Martin Luther King. However, it's not talking about teaching students to be racist. There's a very big difference in my opinion.
Well, it's teaching that white people didn't like what the kids there, like Katie's son is in, it was brown people, white people. This is what they were taught. Like, we don't talk like, she came right home and told me that. And
yeah, they did talk about Martin Luther King.
How he tried to make, but white people didn't like him because of his, so that to me does sort of teach racist because she's 5 and people are people to her. They're little. And I don't know why that is approved, age approved. This, and then this morning it says age approved. How?
So Sarah, when did this take place?
This was during like Black History Month.
So February of last year?
And when I called,
Yes.
because I called and I spoke with Christy, and she told me that this was age approved. And then after I thought, I said, you only can show a G movie all the way up through 6th grade. All the way up through 6th grade. But you can read a book about one person killing another person because of the way they look in kindergarten. And I just learned that they learn about it in 1st grade and 2nd grade too. Who approved that?
Are you asking me a question? Who
Anybody,
approved the
like,
library?
or whoever, who approves that teaching at that age?
Well, the board doesn't set curriculum for each individual teacher and classroom. We don't go class by class, teacher by teacher and say, you can teach this, this is going to be your curriculum. The curriculum is, as Chris said, is approved by now by the state because of how we're operating. But we're not, as a board, we're not setting curriculum for each individual classroom.
I just think at school it just should be, math, English, science, those things to help you succeed. And anything dealing with morals and mental issues should be dealt with in other areas, not in a whole general classroom. And it seems like that's what they're starting to do, is teach you that, you know, with, like my grandson, when he goes up to a person, doesn't look at their color, he doesn't, you know, and then to specifically say, okay, this person is black, so they're different, or whatever, you know, Oriental, whatever.
Right.
He never thought that before. He just saw you as a person. And now that's making distinctions between that.
Yes. Yeah.
And that, to me, is teaching racism.
Yeah, I think you could teach diversity in a different way. You could show pictures of different countries with, like, this is how they dress here, this is their homes. You could teach and just show pictures at that age. You don't have to teach about the killing and the hate and that people had to be separated. Like, I don't understand that. I don't know where else to go, like, with that. We have a new art teacher at the high school, and she feels the need to really push a lot of, the Black Lives Matter. One of the students said all lives matter, and apparently that was racist, and she said no lives matter until Black Lives Matter. That's what she told the 8th grade class.
Proctor High School?
Proctor High School. Then my son wore a back of the blue shirt, a police supporting shirt, and she felt the need in front of the whole class to go on about how she doesn't support police and how we shouldn't have police in front of the whole class. What if some of the kids had parents that were police officers for parents? I mean, how, I don't get it. It doesn't. So we saw this equity policy. We see what's going on in the country. They're saying
The way the
equity.
country's going with their teachings.
Yeah, and like Essex had just passed a similar thing. I saw there was a meeting in Rutland. I think Art had attended. We just want to know what our kids are being taught, because
It's not every teacher.
it's not, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm mostly worried about my daughter.
No,
and I heard
I hear
that
you. I hear you.
even in first grade, I had a mom tell me a story of, you know, her son learning about segregation in first grade, and his father is darker because he's Italian, and he came home in first grade and told him they couldn't drink out of the same water fountain because he was brown and he was white. And that's in first grade. And that was another mom. She's not here tonight. And that's the class my daughter's going into next year or this fall. So,
I think we have to
yeah.
distinguish between equity and critical race theory. The equity means that everybody's treated equally and the same. Critical race theory is a completely different process, completely different mindset. And the commissioner, education commissioner, said that there's no endorsement of that from the state, and that individual boards decide whether or not they're going to pursue that.
Yeah.
We haven't had a discussion on it, but because the superintendent has said that we aren't teaching that, and we haven't had a discussion to teach that. But you can be assured that if we do, there will be some public opportunity for input on that.
Okay. Well, that's what we
But
wanted to
just,
make sure. Because
it's just like equity means that everybody's treated equally, regardless of their, color, socioeconomic, faith, place of origin, sex. Everybody's treated equally well, not just
that's
equally.
what this equity policy is.
Right.
It's not
So are they
ranking.
adopting,
Okay.
are they trying to, I'm asking you a question, are they trying to say that critical race theory is now the equity policy?
They're
or-
saying it's the same thing.
Well, yeah.
It's going to start being
Who is?
evolved into the same
Oh,
thing.
okay,
Who's saying that?
right,
Just in general.
When you read about it.
okay.
It was at the some of the comments at the Rutland meeting and some of the different,
I get a lot of rumors flying, but if that was brought here, the public would definitely have say in that.
well, I'm just trying to figure out why why, we're saying it's not being taught, but it is being taught. It's being taught.
Well, right, we do honor Martin Luther King, and we do celebrate Black History Month in the schools. So we do talk about race and equity in the schools. But I would strongly disagree in terms of saying we're teaching students to be racist.
Well, when you divide people up in the ways that you're teaching it, it is.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
When you divide people up, how did I say that? In the way you're teaching it, it's being racist.
What do you mean
You don't
dividing people
teach it
up?
as if you don't just teach it as an event that happened, and you're saying, because of what happened here, this is what it means now. White people, see, little kids take things, perceive things differently, and like her daughter, she took it as, well, I'm white, so I must not like black people, or, you know, they take things differently. You have to be very careful in the way you teach that. You teach it, this is Martin Luther King, and this is what he did, and, you know, this is how it is now. They're not separating that.
Yeah.
Are you talking about, like, revising history?
Yes.
Yeah, they just think it's something current.
History is history. We may want a different history in our past, but we can't change the past because it really is our history.
Right.
So we need to teach history as it is, not as we hope it would have been.
But that doesn't, but teaching, that's not the way it is now, though. It was at one time, but not now.
Right. We've evolved.
And I think they're just too young to really get into it. It's just too young to teach.
And there's other things too, gender things that.
Can I say something for a minute?
Sure.
For the record, my name's Art Peterson. I'm from Clarendon, actually. These ladies invited me here. I'm their state rep, or one of their state reps. Proctor's part of my district, so I was invited. I spoke about a month ago, or a couple weeks ago, at the Critical Race Theory event in Rutland. I'm here to listen, okay? So that's why I'm not saying very much, and I won't say anything. This isn't my district, but I'm just listening, taking in some of this. A couple things I'd like to just say. Equity isn't equality. Equity is equity of outcomes, equal outcomes. That's kind of what equity is. So it is different than equality. And I really think the problem, I don't care whether you call it critical race theory or, you know, Proctor's curriculum. If you have teachers that say things that divide kids by race, that needs to be taken out of our school system. It doesn't matter if you have critical race theory. If there's a teacher teaching kids things that would divide them by race, and I'm not talking about Martin Luther King. I mean, learning about that is fair game. It's knowledge, it's history, it Black History Month, and it makes sense. But other things that Sarah mentioned are a little troubling. You know, and it's not my district, and I wouldn't say any more than that. But I think it's how teachers teach that the problem is. It's not what you call it. So that's my 2 cents.
It makes sense.
And I will shut up and listen.
I do want to say, one of the things that we will be doing this fall is we're forming like an equity council or equity team, which we're inviting parents, community members, you know, teachers, staff members to be a part of this as we look at what this looks like within our schools. And Sarah, the one thing I ask is, like, as you provide a litany of examples, but yet I have not heard of any of these things. And so if there's ever time when you feel that there's something being taught with your child's classroom, there is a process to go through. So it's like, you know, when you brought it to the building, for instance, attention, but if you feel that the situation has not been resolved, there is a process, for us to take a look at this, where while we agree that there are age-appropriate things, I think that's, as we discussed this before, that sure, there are certain topics that are maybe more appropriate for a junior, senior level high school class, or a topic, well, not appropriate for a kindergarten or first or second grade classroom. But it is something, and I've been in education now, this is my 28th year, and unfortunately, I think one of the things you always have is in classrooms, you have a curriculum, you have administrators who closely monitor, but there are times where classroom teachers may take certain liberties on a variety of subjects, a variety of topics, but that's where building administrators need to know right away so we can address and correct this. So make sure that certain things aren't being discussed or talked about, or if they are, they're being talked about in approved ways that the board is aware of, that the administration is aware of.
I was planning on reaching out to Miss McLemore, I believe, is the new.
Yes.
Okay. At some point regarding some of those things. I just wanted to give you examples that some of the stuff was being taught and that other parents are saying the same things once we all kind of got together, and we're all just kind of going, what's going on.
Right.
And I actually did reach out because not about that, but about a book that was given called The Hate You Give, was given out for 9th through 12th, and was told, I think the kids were told to read it. I looked it up, and it was banned.
There was an alternate book provided for that as well for students who did not want to read that.
I don't know.
So when you reached out, did you ask the building administrator if there was an alternate book available?
I emailed Mrs. Canning, and I included you in it, and that was a couple weeks before school got over, and nobody emailed me back about why it was approved or why we were reading it. And I emailed you and Miss Canning.
Right,
and nobody reached out.
And typically when you email more than one person, I defer to the building level principal, and when I don't hear back from them, I assume the situation has been resolved.
Well,
Sarah, I've known you for a couple of years. You could have easily picked up the phone and called me and discussed this and sent me a further email. But this is what I'm saying is I appreciate you coming and sharing your concerns, but I think our building administrators, we communicate, we work through things. I think as we move forward, we want to make sure that we are transparent with what things we are doing. If there are issues, the same way, we need, your feedback, your input as well to address these situations. But,
Okay.
Like I said, there are going to be some, we know there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I think that's one of the things we have to do our best is to educate and really just to be very clear about what we're doing, that we're not using coded language. We're not trying to sneak things in. We're very transparent. Like I said, I worked in 3 different states, but one thing I will say is the fact that with any student or staff member, I want them to feel safe, and I want them to feel welcome and included in the school building. And that's all of our kids and all of our staff members.
And that's what this policy.
And that's what our policy is trying to promote. Yes.
And that's what I would like too. And and I definitely, they need to learn history, but age appropriate. And like that book, when I looked up, had a lot of bad language and seemed like it should have been for older, maybe junior, senior, even college, but 9th, 10th. And I had a mom tell me about it, and I didn't think much. And then there was a mom who was really upset that our son came home, and he said he came home and he felt like after he read it in the assembly that police were bad and white privilege, and just, I still hadn't read it. I've looked up online, I've gotten reviews, and I've gotten other things, and then that's when I emailed and
the movie.
You watched the movie? I had a friend watch the movie and she just couldn't believe, and I just said, so I reached out and just said, why are the kids reading this, or at this age? And nobody answered.
What grade was that?
I believe it was 9th through 12th, right?
Yeah, it was 9 through 12, and the email actually came out in the newsletter, I think, before explaining what the book was, There was an optional book. It was the Vermont Humanities Book of the Year. It's been read at multiple high schools, I know. I've participated in book clubs. I have the book. I have the second book, Concrete Rose, at the library, if you'd like to come check them out. I just had a parent come in the other day that had heard the same thing and checked out the book so that he could read it and actually know what the book was about.
Yeah.
So, it's my understanding, it's not my understanding, I know there was a second book because it was in the newsletter. So, I mean, those are things that I think if a student is upset about a particular book, I'm pretty sure there's always going to be another book for the student to have an option to read. I know that's happened more than once at the high school because, for whatever reason, a family didn't want a particular book being read. So I think that's something that, you know, it can easily be addressed. I would just say on the flip side to the book, Sarah, and I'm not saying this about your children, but I did find it interesting, some of the comments about the books, because I'm pretty aware of what's going on in town, and I hear the music as it goes by the library in cars of teenagers, and I'm not sure I heard things much worse coming out of some of those, or the language I hear sometimes, than was in that book. And I'm not saying your children, I'm just saying in general. So, and you know, I think parents should feel confident and comfortable and feel secure when they drop their children off and they walk through the thresholds of any of our campuses. So, but I also think that there's probably going to be something that happens during the day that someone may be upset about. I mean, that's just the reality. We're dealing with a lot of kids, a lot of teachers, and the building administrator can't be in every single classroom every moment of the day. And so things like this help us as a board because it makes us aware, because we're not in the classrooms and we're not in the buildings, and we don't know what's going on. So information when you come and share is important for us, and it allows us to take the information and go back to building administrators, go back to the administration, and have conversations, because we don't want things that are inappropriate taking place. We don't want people to be upset, and we don't want kids to feel unwelcome in the classroom or uncomfortable. Students should feel comfortable participating in discussion, participating in conversation, and sharing what their opinions and their feelings are. That's the only way we really learn and learn about one another. So
this policy should help.
This policy should help.
That's what you're saying.
I'm hopeful every policy we adopt is helping and is not going to be a burden. But I also think that, and I hope you've heard this evening, that if you don't feel like at the building level that something's being addressed, to please contact Chris, because he's going to be the pipeline then to the board if something needs to be addressed further.
And I was unaware there's an alternative book. Although, like Chris said, he defers emails. There was a lot of emails this last year and newsletters, and I have kids at both schools.
Right.
So
hopefully things are going to calm down this year.
I'm hoping. I just, when I've reached out and I read, I reached out to Art and some different things, and it sounds like the school, you approve the curriculum. The school board approves the curriculum, right? Is that?
We have a curriculum director, Lisa Matson, the assistant superintendent who's here, and we have some say, yeah. We're not approving, like, I guess when you say we approve the curriculum is a big word when it comes to education. So are we approving, if Chris is teaching history, are we approving everything that he's teaching in that room? No, at the board level, we're not. He's creating, his lessons plans. That's a conversation he's having with his board administrator. But and Art should well know this, that school boards are pretty much directed with respect to with curriculum and what we're doing by the state. So Montpelier is making a lot of decisions about what's happening in education, much to the dismay of school board members, and parents should be just as upset. So, but we have some say around curriculum, but we are not specifically approving what's happening at the second grade level.
Right.
That there is, particularly with proficiency based, which is what the state has now adopted. So there are certain standards that need to be taught and hit, and within that there's a range. But here at the board level, we're not saying in second grade you're going to teach multiplication, you're going to teach 1800s history, you're going to teach, you know.
Can we just say you're not going to teach hate and killing until at least a little bit?
Well, I hope we're not going to teach hate and killing no matter what
What
age.
you're not going to teach at that age,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah, hate and killing is not something we're going to endorse at any age.
Okay.
So, absolutely.
I think we have to be mindful of teachers' personal doctrine.
Sure.
And sometimes that could be more the issue. If a person has a specific perspective and doctrine, are they incorporating that into their lesson?
Right,
And
they
that's
should
what we,
just have basic.
that's what we need to know about. If that's in accordance with what the standard is, but if it's not, we need to know about that.
Well, I want to make that clear that the kindergarten, I believe, was a library book that was read by the librarian, so that wasn't, so that was just a book. So maybe hers is different, what, you know, than what the kindergarten teacher teaches. So, but either way, it just didn't, you know, it just wasn't very appropriate at all for any of us moms that had kids in that class, so.
Okay. Was there anything else, any of the other board members, or Christy, did you have anything else to share?
No, thanks, Sarah. You can always give me a call when something comes up like this.
Okay.
I just want assurance that things are going to be taught as basics and not have somebody in there with their, not per se critical race theory, but having that thinking behind it. You know, I want to know, if somebody starts with that type of teaching, that it's okay for us parents to come in and say no, and not just have somebody say, well, this has been approved. I don't want to, you know, if I disapprove of something, I don't want to just be shut down and say, well, too bad.
You guys always have a say.
That's what happened.
Well, as Tom said, you always have the opportunity to first go to, I mean, the line is the teacher, the building and administrator, Chris, the board. Those are the, that's how the hierarchy works with respect to having a concern, a complaint, or something like that. So that should be happening no matter what. I mean, can I assure you, as you said here today, that something like this isn't going to take place in a building? I can't assure you that. That's not a question I can ask a teacher when I interview them. What's your feeling on race? What's your feeling on equity? Those are not questions that are within the bounds for us to ask. So our hope is that teachers are going to stay appropriate in their classroom. But if something happens, the only way we're going to know that, if the building administrator isn't in there or there isn't someone else in there, is from students, from parents. And at that point, you know, it goes to the building administrator, and they are going to address it. So, and like I said, that is your opportunity to, you know, travel up the rungs if you're not feeling satisfied with the response that you're receiving.
Be sure you document whatever it is your concern is. That always helps.
Okay, thank you.
And the earlier you come about something, the better. So if something happens, that week. It's better to contact within the week rather than waiting the next month or 2 weeks or
It was
something.
a crazy year, and as far as the high school, we've gone through a lot of changes at the high school, so I'm hoping it'll be more consistent, because I don't think that it's been very good for the kids, or the teachers. The kids, they need to feel like they matter, like somebody is taking charge of the school and cares about them, and I think going through so many people, so many principals, and I think that has an impact, and maybe some of the teachers
Taking advantage.
sidetracked or whatnot. So I'm hopeful for this year, and we've gotten the survey, and Miss McLemore, and she seems interested in all of our opinions, and so I am. I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I'm hoping with everything, with the restrictions and all of it. My daughter is excited to go to school. I'm hoping everything. But as far as like reaching out and going through, it's been a confusing last couple of years at the high school with all the different changes. I mean, you just get one thing and then somebody new is in charge, and then, I mean, that's not very helpful for us parents when we have concerns. So,
Okay. Hopefully it'll be a better year this year.
yeah. Well, go ahead.
I have a question, and it's administrative. This unified district is Proctor, Pulteney, West Rutland, Rutland Town?
No, Proctor, Pulteney, West Rutland.
Not Rutland Town.
No, Rutland Town is a part of our SU.
And let me just ask you a process question. Are you the chairman, ma'am?
I am.
Madam Chair, is this how you handle your public input all the time?
Do we allow people to speak?
And back and forth?
Yes.
I find that so refreshing. Thank you for it.
You're welcome.
It doesn't take place everywhere.
No, if people come to speak to us,
You solve the problem.
I don't know that we've solved their problem.
Right, but
I don't.
But there's some back and forth.
Right. We don't want to be dismissive of people. I mean, I know these people that are coming. They've been in my office.
Yeah.
I had a child that just graduated from Proctor High School. I understand.
Yeah.
And as everyone that's here is on a board is a parent. We all are parents. We just no longer have children in the schools. We'll be parents forever. Yeah, we didn't come. We don't sit here to be dismissive of our neighbors or our friends in our community members. That there's no purpose to that. We want us to all. We want to grow and be better. We want our students to be the best they can be, and the product that we have at the end of their school year is a well-rounded, well-prepared 12th grade graduate that can go out into the world and be successful. And that's our goal, whether you're the superintendent, a building administrator, or a board member. Our goal is the same for everyone. So when people come to speak to us, yes, we take the time. We're not limiting. You've taken time out of your evening or your day to travel here to speak to us. We want to make sure that we hear and are clear on what the concern is and how we can make it better.
I really appreciate it. I really appreciate what you've done here today.
Great.
Back and forth. Like I said, it doesn't happen everywhere.
And you're welcome at any meeting, open meeting like this, whether it's this meeting or if it's online, to view and participate and make it known to us what your thoughts are based on what we're doing. So don't limit it just to this one opportunity, and spread the word, because really we'd like input from parents, because sometimes we're struggling to really know what they want.
Right. People are afraid. People,
Well, I hope people aren't afraid to come here. I hope that we're, that people feel, no matter what you come for, we're here to listen and we're here to try to resolve it, because there's no advantage of being rude or dismissive. It's someone's child, and so we should look at it as our child, that it's a member of our community.
yeah.
I think you've explained everything. We're just all worried about
this world and our children and making sure that everything is good, and so.
We don't want to get to the point where the schools have taken over so much that our opinions don't matter.
Right.
We want to be able to
Mold your
what
child.
education we want our children to have and not to have, and before things go too far.
You have a representative right next to you who can help take some of the things off our plate. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a little chat with him about what's going on in Montpelier. It'd make our life a lot easier.
What is going on? Now that you've mentioned it.
We'll be here for hours.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Yeah. But please come back, and let us know how the school year's going. If something has happened, if you see an issue or something, so that we don't want it just to fall off the table,
So, based on some of the examples that I've shared of other parents and students and my things we've witnessed, and is that going to lead to is there going to be some sort of any outcome, a meeting of something?
Sarah, these are discussions that we have on a regular basis, the admin team. We just had our admin retreat last week, and we've discussed this regularly. I think someone who's been, like I said, going back to schools in 3 different states, many variety of states, I think we're always concerned. As an educator, you don't want to ever be seen as proselytizing. You really should be presenting a wide perspective of things and recognizing the various, inputs, the communities. And I think our goal really is that our teachers, they have a curriculum, they have standards that they should be teaching, and they're not delving into personal ideologies, personal beliefs, and pushing a personal agenda within their classroom. There are certain things that obviously as we discuss certain topics through, different, subjects, as you get to junior, senior level high school, it might be more controversial, whether it be through history or say the English classroom, but it's important for our educators to understand that they have to take a neutral stance and present a multiple perspective to an issue or a topic, not to take a one-sided approach to presenting something. And that's important for us, because our goal really ultimately is to have our students be able to think for themselves, to understand, weigh all the options, weigh all the perspectives, and then formulate their own opinions, not to merely parrot an educator's or our school's perspective or opinions on things. And we feel that's really important for us to do. So, and with regard to separate incidents, like I said, we'll talk about this. I know that the principals are on this call, and so they're aware of this. We'll take this into account, but that's what's important. There is a certain timeliness to this, whether, if you feel that something is inappropriate or is something that you question why it's being taught, you have every right to sit there and contact any one of our building administrators and say, hey, I just want a little more feedback about what's going on. Why is this being taught? Why? And we may refer back to, well, there's a standard, or if it's something that we're not aware of, like I said, Mr. Slanker, Ms. Galudi, Mr. McLemore, Mr. Javanis, Mr. Harrington, whoever it may be, we'll address those concerns, right away, and we'll do our best. But that's also where, as we move forward, whether it be through a strategic plan, which we'll talk about, later, or through like an equity group, you have opportunities to look at what this looks like and have these discussions, because there are a lot of difficult discussions. But I feel that, like I said, the wealth of misinformation out there on all levels, the more we can talk about things, the better you understand exactly what it is we're trying to do, not just you hear a term or hear something and say, well, you're pushing that into a school when we're really not. And I think that's part of what's happening right now, is there are a lot of people believing that, let's say critical race theory is being pushed into schools. Well, maybe it's not. I mean, I've, like I said, been in high school for a long time. I've never once seen critical race theory ever taught, in a high school. Have I seen teachers make bad decisions about a topic and impart some of their own personal ideology? Yes, but those have been addressed and weeded out, and that's what we're taking.
So,
And I think,
if anything comes up this year, then
yeah, and I think with with Jen, or Ms. McLemore, we have to give her a moment. I mean, I have a feeling she probably feels like she's running uphill putting on her pants. I mean, it's been a lot coming in, and I understand when you say there have been a lot of things at the high school and changes, but I will put my self on the line here and tell you that I believe we have an excellent leader in her, and that you're going to see changes that are going to be positive. that I believe that of our administrative team across all campuses, and I think that she's heard what you've said. I know that she's been looking at surveys, and I think you may not always see the immediate change, but sometimes things are happening quietly behind closed doors, those kinds of things. So it may not be so out front and so flashy, but it doesn't mean it's not being addressed.
I was planning to meet with her personally, but she started July 1st. I went on vacation, and I literally just came back yesterday. So.
Yeah, so
the meeting was tonight.
Yeah, so no, I think that's great.
So everybody's kind of aware.
Sarah, drop me an email and we'll set something up, okay? I'd love to hear from you.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Spread the word.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Okay. All right.
Thank you for explaining the policies.
Sure. Thank you for coming.
You don't have to leave.
Thank you for coming and asking rather than just guessing
You don't
what
have
it
to leave, you
was.
can stay.
No, you have to stay for the whole thing.
Well, I was going to stay till the end because I thought you were, the equity policy I thought was at the end and you were going to.
Well, it is at the end for adoption.
No, I think we're good. I mean, you know how we feel, so.
Okay.
That's what we
So,
need.
and you've eased some of my concerns, so, and I'll just touch base with the schools.
All right. That sounds good. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to old business. We have the Quarry Valley Board Retreat update. Chris?
Just a reminder, that's August 2nd, to be held here at the GRCSU conference room, begins at 9 o'clock. We're currently drafting an agenda, and as soon as that has been approved, we'll have that sent out to all members.
Yeah,
And
so-
You think that's going to run from like 9 to 1 or
9 to
something like
1.
that?
Yeah, 9 to 1.
No later than 1 o'clock.
And we'll have, I don't know, bagels and munchies. Okay, and the transcript. Lisa Mattson?
I have, this is Greg, the
Yep.
Technology Director. I have an update. I talked to Ryan, who is our development contact today, and he says our work is still in the queue and it is not been worked on yet, and he thinks that maybe next week it will be completed. I asked him to give me a status report of where that is in the next day or two, and if he could bump it up. And I have not heard back from him, but I will keep on him for that. Summertime, they have a lot of development work, and they try to prioritize it by complexity and critical aspects. Yeah, it has not been done, so we don't have completed samples.
Okay.
yet.
So do we want to put this on the agenda for August then?
Yes, please do, and then
Okay.
I would think that from what Ryan is telling me as of today, it should be completed by then, and we'll have final product in front of you by then.
Okay, so is there any objection to placing this as a agenda item for August?
Motion to table.
Motion to table by Mike, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tom, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Did you have a question, Kristen Ross?
No, sorry, that was my eye. I was
Okay,
just-
everybody
sorry.
like jumps around, so it's hard to keep track of everyone. All right, great. New business, budgeting, discussion of line-by-line review. So I think this was, Kristen Ross, was this your?
Yes.
Okay.
So I had just thought, and I don't, Louis is on, so maybe this is another tabled item, but just, I wanted to have a discussion about how we envisioned, we talked about looking at budget items pseudo line by line last November, December-ish time. And so I was just wondering if Louis had a suggestion for a process to do that as a whole group, or what how we could go about that, I guess, if we were gonna actually do that. So maybe there's two pieces, is are we gonna do sort of a line-by-line examination? Does the board wanna do that? And then two, if the answer is yes, how would we go about that if he had some suggestions for leading us through that?
Okay, so why don't we do the first piece? Do the board members want to do a line-by-line review?
Yeah.
So I have head shaking here. What about people that are online? So I'm guessing Kristen does because she brought up the subject. Nate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of a line-by-line review.
Okay. Kristen Whitman?
I would support that.
Jessica? Seth?
I think it's a good idea. I'm not going to go so far as to say I want to do it, but I support it, that it is a good law.
Okay. I'm gonna skip back to you, Jessica. Is it something you support?
Yeah.
Okay. So and Tom, you were shaking your head, yes?
Yeah. I'll go.
Okay. So it's unanimous to do it. So I think the second piece is maybe have Chris reach out to Lewis and have him bring what the process would look like to the August meeting. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that sounds great. If there's I mean, I don't think Lewis is gonna be like super excited that we all wanted to do this, like Seth said. Want is maybe not the word, but just to streamline it for him, because he and his colleagues are putting in line-by-line things already in their system, and so how would it work best for him to make it easy to explain to us and for us to work with him. So if he could suggest a process, I think that would be more efficient than us trying to figure out a way on our own without.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, so Chris will let Lewis know, and I'm sure he'll come back with something, a good method for us to look at in August. Consent agenda, approval of minutes. A motion would be in order to approve the June 21st minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Nate. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Approval of warrants. Warrants are sent to you in your email. Questions should be directed to Lewis. A motion would be in order to approve the warrants.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Nate, second.
Kristen Ross, I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Superintendents report, Chris.
Thanks, Lisa. I don't really know where to look. We have too many screens, but so if I'm looking all over the place, I apologize. So I have a few items to discuss. It is July. Traditionally, this is a slow month, but I think we found that the past couple of years, there really are no such things as slow months. It's just kind of things change and alter. But as you've heard before, the recovery plan has been accepted and approved. I do want to thank, like I said, Lisa, Madison, who oversaw that, and the administrators and staff members who've been part of the process. Lisa will have a presentation on the July 28th at the GRCSU board meeting, and then we will bring a condensed version of that back to the local boards in August for discussion and review. If anyone is interested, the link to the recovery plan can be found on the GRCSU website. It's at the very top, so you can click through that. I do want to note that, like I said, I've said this before, but the AOE has commended us on the efforts and the plans that we have put in place. So they said that it's been very thorough. We've really kept in mind the best interests of our students on a variety of levels. So I just want to once again, just say thank you to everyone for all their hard work. And this is a work in progress. You know, as I said, we drafted this in the spring. So obviously, as we move through the school year, through the fall and through the winter, just as we do, you know, as classroom teachers do, we constantly review data, evaluate where we're at, and make adjustments, make changes. So it is a kind of a moving, working document. So what you see now, obviously, as we move through the year, might alter, might change. And, you know, next summer when we're here talking, we'll probably have a different outlook on things, just because we'll have a better understanding of where our kids are at academically, socially, and emotionally. So Lisa, Madison, and I have been meeting with building administrators, just, you know, kind of going through, making sure buildings are ready to go for the fall. I will talk a little about the fall reopening here. I might as well just talk about now. There has been a lot of discussion, because I know people have been hearing about, you know, things going on, the Delta variant, and, you know, just some of the larger metropolitan areas, you know, starting to reintroduce mask requirements, things along those lines. As of right now, as of, you know, July 19th here at 7:00 p.m., our plan still is to return to fully in-person instruction next year. We will not, I've said this repeatedly, we will not have a remote option. I know last year we had that hybrid where we had the remote in-person option, which I think worked well for families, you know, last year. But we made a commitment that this year we want to get all the kids back in the schools, back in person, and that's if we will not have that remote option for families. So I just want to reiterate that, just to be very clear that that's not the place. If there is a time that a school or a classroom has to go remote, similar to what happened, you know, last year, if there was an outbreak, we'll adjust accordingly, but we will not have that hybrid option. All of our students will expect to be in person in the fall. People have asked about masks, what the status is with masks, and I can say right now is, as right now, masks will be an individual choice. That could change. You know, like I said, there, you know, the state decides to do it, Department of Health, but as of right now, it will be, you know, based on families' decision in terms of what they feel is best for their children. And so if the state asks us to do or requires us to do something different, then we will quickly shift and pivot, but we will let you know with regards to that. So I also included a copy of the legislative updates for your boards to review. It's the final one, so it's just kind of get an idea about where things are at, what's coming down the pike, and just so that's it's really just kind of a short, condensed version, but we'll have more in August as we move towards the start of the school year. So, thanks.
Any questions for Chris?
Anything on the pupil weighting at all, other than what's in here? Is it just...
Nothing. I know that, we haven't heard anything about that. As soon as I know, we'll have more information for it. There's a lot in there we're waiting to hear a little bit more about, so that will have some impact on us.
All right, principals reports. Christy.
All right, so we didn't provide any written reports. And I guess I have we have our summer academy at Park Elementary School. We have about 56 students that are participating. We also have our tapestry program, which is from 8 to 5:30 each day for 6 weeks. So I'm super excited about the participation level of the students. It's far higher this summer than it has been in summers past, so that's super exciting. Administratively, like Chris mentioned, we had our admin retreat last week, and we were able to talk a lot about our professional growth and things that we're going to be working on this school year. So we have a lot of work to do, but I'm confident we will step up and do it, and I look forward to collaborating with the new administrators in our districts.
Great, thank you. Joe. Joe DeBonis.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Just to follow what Christy was saying about last week, it was it was a good week. I love how they call it a retreat, when might as well just say we did a week full of meetings, but hey, and we were in, central office. It wasn't like we were on a nice lake front or anything like that, but no, it was great to see everybody. Our schools have been full of the rec programs, been in our schools the last few weeks, and even in there today, there was a bunch of, the gym was 2 things going on in the gym, and a couple other rooms were being used, so it's nice to see, future students in our building, and even a lot of our students working with the rec program. We got a handful of kids working on their credit recovery program. We do that online program, plugging away at it, getting weekly updates from the person who's running it. So, and our guys are doing a good job. We have one of our projects is putting gutters up and fixing the roof, so we had a great year to do that, because with all the rain coming in and everything, and they're trying to work on that when everything's going on. So it's been a good year so far, and like Chris said too, we just hope that everything goes well in the fall and we can continue on.
Great, thank you. Jen?
Hello, good evening. We have a lot going on in our building right now. I just want to give a huge thank you to Charlie Hughes. He's been helping so much with that maintenance person. And he's been waxing the floors, making the building look nice again, helping with the elevator that is just started to be refixed this past week, and hopefully they said we'll have it up and running in a few weeks, so that'll be nice. We have some summer camps going on. We did 2 camps, a babysitting certification class and an adaptive camp. We have 2 camps ongoing, a social emotional learning camp and an esports gaming camp. And we still have 1 yet to be on offer, which is a Vermont outdoor camp, with collaborating with Rutland Mental Health. We've got a Facebook up and running that is also linked on our website. So if you want some more information about all that good stuff, there's pictures of kiddos on that. I'd love to get more people to like it in the community. And then just a thank you to Christy, the 2 Joes and Jay for helping me hit the ground running within the first few weeks here.
Great, thank you. Kristen?
Hi, everybody. Hope everything's going well with you all this summer. Like Christy said, we have our summer program going on in the building, and I echo the words that the attendance has been tremendously higher than ever. I think we're at like 97% attendance rate, which is unheard of for summer school, so I'm pretty psyched about that. Kids are having a great time working in small groups, math, literacy, doing some team building activities. The kids have taken 1 field trip to the Pulteney Library, and they're also going to be venturing out into the community to the rescue squad and then to Reclaim Ed Makerspace. Hopefully we'll be able to build a partnership with this new endeavor in town to help us with our project-based learning. So I think that's kind of cool. And we did start advertising for our art position. We wish Mrs. Purdy the best of luck, but we're very sad to see her go. And we interviewed 3 candidates today, very promising, and we have 2 more to interview tomorrow. And yeah, I think that's it. We're about 70% of our classrooms are done at this point, so.
Great.
We're on the move.
Thank you. Jay?
Good evening, everybody. We have a lot going on at West Rutland School. We have about 50 to 60 students in our summer tapestry program, and close to that in our academy, getting tutoring, so things are going really, really well. Want to thank everybody for their help with that. We also have an enormous amount of cleaning and tidying up, and our custodial staff, you may remember we had a changeover in custodial staff, and they have been absolutely doing a wonderful job. Lots and lots of paint, lots of cleaning out. This was the perfect time to do it coming back from COVID. I just want to thank everybody for really a team effort for all the work that they have been doing, and we are truly excited about getting back in the fall and looking forward to a really positive year. We should be fully hired if all, I believe we had 1 hiring on tonight for approval. We should be fully hired after that, and maybe that's already been approved. It was the high school English position, but we are fully staffed at this time, so we're excited about that as well.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on to personnel, we have contracts before us. For professional staff, Connor Patton, a West Rutland English teacher, and Deanna Rodolfi for a horizontal move. Are there any questions about the professional staff? Hearing none, a motion would be in order to approve.
This is Kristen Ross. I will move to approve the professional staff.
Second.
Kristen Whitman, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Extracurricular, we have Sierra Thornton for a summer tutor, Megan Franzoni, fall 7-8 cheerleading, Megan Franzoni, varsity cheerleading, Hannah Corkum, varsity girls soccer, Aaron P., 7-8 soccer, Dave Capman, JV football, Dave Capman, varsity football, Phil Welch, 7-8 football, Chris Hughes, varsity soccer co-coach, Scott French, varsity soccer co-coach, Chad Wilson, varsity soccer, Dylan Z, varsity soccer, Deanna Rodolfi, varsity girls soccer. Any questions about the extracurricular?
Oh, sorry, never mind.
Hearing none, a motion would be in order to approve the extracurricular as read.
Chuck will make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Nate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. In your packet, you have 2 resignations. John Roberts for on-call maintenance staff, and Deborah Purdy, the art teacher that Kristen was just speaking of, from Poultney Elementary. A motion would be in order to accept the resignations.
I'll make the motion to accept the resignations.
Motion by Nate, second.
I'll second.
Second by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Finance, we don't have Lewis here this evening. If there are any questions about the report, please contact Lewis. In your packet, you also have, for information only, about outstanding openings and just a list of retirements, resignations, and new hires thus far. Communication Committee. So I've asked to have all committee minutes put into our board packets now, because sometimes board members, I don't always go on and read minutes, so it's just a good way to stay abreast of what's happening. So I'm going to pass this over to Kristen Ross.
Okay, and I can do that for the meeting we just had too. I'm working on this today and tomorrow, so we'll get those done. So I made a little slide, if I can just share my screen, if that'll work for everybody. Let me just pull up the right screen, make sure I have a bunch of things open. So it's just one slide, it just has bullet points, just to give you a visual. If it's, maybe it won't let me here. Present my entire screen. Actually, it's not letting me for some reason. So anyway, I will just read it off. There's only a few things. So we have worked together with Shannon and Greg to get the websites looking much better. So if you wanted to start with, I was going to show you the grcsvu.org website. That should be pretty close to having consistent drop-down menus and tabs across the top. And then you can, the first tab on the upper right-hand side, it has all the links to all the different school websites. Pictures should be pretty much updated, and you should be able to see events, current events on the homepage. You know, obviously in the summer there aren't quite as many as there would be during the school year, but those will continue to be updated. There are social media links, and there are Google calendars for each school. So it will say, you know, 6 p.m. tonight, there's a Quarry Valley board meeting, or whatever the committee meetings are, or whatever other sort of school-based, you know, on the school pages, on the individual school pages, you'll be able to see like what is happening in that building. So our goal is to have these websites be the go-to place rather than random social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, although those will obviously complement each other, and they should complement each other. So thank you, Shannon and Greg, who've been working really hard to get these websites in order. And along with that, Shannon is identifying the process for loading content. So each building may have a slightly different process of who's in charge of updating content. So whether that's posting menu items for lunches, breakfasts, whether that's sporting events or sporting or some kind of practice cancellations, she's going to come up with a sort of written framework of process for each building. And she's been talking to and working with the contacts, whether it's a front office person or a librarian or a teacher, or whoever the staff person is, principal, to get everything updated. And she's got a whole slew of Google Drive folders that those folks can put pictures into to try to keep those updated. So she is asking if you see something that is gone awry or not updated or incorrect on a website, whether it's a board member sees that, whether it's a parent, whether it's a student or a faculty member or administrator, to submit a help desk ticket. And that should be easy to find as well across the top of the websites, depending on which one you go to. Like on the grcsu.org website, there's a submitted tech ticket right at the top. And so we came up with a series of between 6 and 7 little icons that one can click on to get more information about academics, an icon for parents, so you can get links to Infinite Campus and things like that to be on the school-based website. So we're looking for moderate uniformity and consistency across all the schools in our district, but to also enhance it with different social media, blog site postings, or tweets, or photographs that are specific for that building, that school. So there will be some and the colors will be different for the school colors, etc. So there'll be some individualized pieces in the design, but we're generally looking for uniformity, that if you go to any school in the district, you should see generally the same kind of choices when you're selecting either a drop-down menu or clicking on an icon.
And have they been looking at making it so it's just as easy to access on your phone? Because I know it's different on your desktop, because now I've just pulled something up and 2 different tabs come up as error 404 on my phone. So I think that might be a piece that we need to look at too, because more people are looking at things on their phone as opposed to your desktop. And I know when I do it at work that the screens are much different.
Yeah, and so that's the continuing piece, ongoing work that we have talked about that a little bit. We haven't emphasized that as much at this point. We're just trying to get everybody on board with what we want to see there. Okay. And getting things updated, but that is in part of the next level of editing and working on having it look good on whatever screen you're working with. So, but yeah, that's definitely on the radar. So if building administrators have particular issues or problems that they see on their building website, we're asking if sometime before school starts, sooner rather than later, if you do see some issues or changes that you'd like Shannon to do. I mean, obviously our goal is really by the August Quarry Valley meeting to have these websites, there's always going to be some things that might need to get tweaked, but for the most part, we want them to be done yesterday. So, so if building administrators can take a moment at some point in the next couple of weeks to, really look through each tab and each clicking, and that would be super helpful, because I won't catch everything, for example, when I look at it, and Shannon might not catch everything either. So there's a few challenges she's still working through. with the Google Drive folders. So there is a few pieces in the work still. We've been trying to focus on getting out the survey, which is my next bullet point. But before I leave websites, the other thing that Shannon came up with is it's kind of her plan, her website maintenance and content creation plan. So she's gonna, like I said, have her workflow written down, and our committee's trying to help her with keeping on some deadlines through the summer, so that when the workload hits for the fall, she's got all this other website stuff hopefully behind her. But thank you, Lisa, for the reminder that we need to make sure that our websites are looking good for, whatever type of small screen you're looking at, as well as large screen. So we'll take a look at that again. My next piece, and this was, I believe, included in the packet, was the communication survey.
Yep.
So if folks could take a look at that and look through some of the questions, we're trying to keep it really short. So the idea behind this survey is to ask some questions, to send this out, hopefully when the new school year materials go out. So each principal will send this out, the link out, and in hard copy form and digital form to parents, students, so we can have a wide swath of people who will fill out this survey, talking about, asking questions about how they get their information, how would they prefer to get their information, and what sort of communication media would they prefer to use, and what they'd like to see from our district. So this will be a district-wide survey. So this is a draft that was included in the packet. So we've gone one round with Shannon. She put together some of these questions based on some models that we looked at from other groups that had done communication surveys, and she pared it down to very few questions, because our goal here is to get people to answer it. And if you make it any longer than really 10 to 12 questions, you're not going to get a huge response. So we may have to roll this out several times in the early part of the school year to remind people to fill it out. Kristen Caligiri's idea was to have it be available for assuming we can do open house nights and early, back to school nights, to have this set up on a screen somewhere that people can come and just fill it out as they walk in the building to see what their kid's classroom looks like, or some kind of event or something like that. To encourage people to fill it out, because we all know it's so easy to ignore an email. So we're looking at thinking about ways to, once this is finalized, to get this out in multiple formats so people will fill it out. So we can hear from them, get some feedback about ways people are accessing our information, and then how they would like to get information from us. So we're asking the rest of the board to kind of look at this survey draft, and you can send feedback, I guess, to either me or Shannon, and we'll work on it for getting it out sometime in August. So I wasn't going to walk through the survey unless somebody wants me to. It's there in your packet. So there's that. Does anybody have questions about the survey, or anybody else on the communication committee want to add something that I forgot? I'm trying to kind of move quickly here.
My only question on the survey is, how are you capturing community members not attached to the school? Because we still want those community members to be involved and receive information about the happenings within our school. So, for example, how would you capture myself, Tom, or Mike? None of us have children currently in the school.
Yeah, so this survey, first off, is really designed for those family members with children in the school. We've had another discussion about, like Frank, I brought up, for example, better communication, I know in Poultney, is needed between our town management, select board, town manager, et cetera, and our maybe what's going on at the school board. And now that we've merged, it's less fluid about how things are being decided or what's being decided over, you know, for example, the school property and the school buildings, et cetera, just to keep them abreast, for example. And they wouldn't necessarily be filling out this kind of information either. So this survey is more targeted to start with. It's not going to be our only effort to get information from the community, but we didn't want to make this extraordinarily lengthy either. So we're first off sort of targeting those with, you know, if you look at the first question there, I think it's the first question. Sorry, I've got a couple tabs up.
No, it is, and I guess that's why I asked, because some of the questions in here are a little more targeted also towards community members. And I don't know, I guess if you're going to do a second rollout, but I think part of the communication piece is also problematic when everyone isn't receiving the information. So only the school community is receiving it. I'm outside the school community, so I'm not receiving it. So then I'm not just outside the school community, I'm on a totally different island, you know? And I think that's one piece we've really been trying to change, to make everybody be as invested in the schools as those of us that are on the board are. So or business owners and things like that. I know in Proctor that, for example, Christy partners, you know, with different members of the community to do different things. So you want everyone to be valued within your community. So I guess if a second survey is going out, but when I read through this, there were a lot of things I thought pertained to people that were not necessarily just parents. So, and it's interesting because, I don't know, I think we should be more inclusive. I guess that's all I have.
Okay.
Lisa?
Yeah, so if you have some suggestions for additional questions or alterations to some of the questions that anyone would like to see, please, definitely let us know. I mean, we had talked about focusing on how our, direct school communities are accessing our information. Like, for example, Greg can look at website traffic between a certain date, between, say, January and June, for example. But, that's just website traffic. And a lot of people don't even go on websites anymore and haven't been because our websites have been so unreliable, right?
Right.
So we sort of prioritized our, because I get a lot of complaints from both teachers and parents that they don't know where to get information. So we were trying to focus on that community level first. But if you would like to see a broader survey, we can definitely put in different kinds of questions or additional questions in there and try to work with that to still keep it brief. So
yeah, I don't know that it's changing questions per se. I think the goal is still the same, how you're receiving information. But did you have something, Mike?
Yeah, I agree with what Lisa was saying about sort of the non-member contact, if you will. Is there any policy or thought about putting it on the website so people can do the survey there, so that we can track it that way? Because I worry about surveys in that sometimes we get surveyitis, and if one survey comes out, you tend to get a good response. If a second survey comes out, people think, oh, that's just it's kind of like the first one, so I'm not going to take the time. So
right.
with Lisa's concern that for us who don't have children in the school system, we could be left out of that. So having a second survey could be problematic in that people just don't respond to it, so then we don't really ever know.
Right. So my the idea that we've had is to put this survey everywhere. So on our websites, through social media, through newsletters that go home, through the start of this school year packet, we have a whole list of where the survey would go to hit as many folks as we can. Now, some of the questions, like you said, Lisa, are pretty targeted, and as Christine Calgieri just pointed out, we've also talked about putting it up on Front Porch Forum. But some of the questions are which, like number 8, please select the school your children attend. So obviously some folks won't either check that. So maybe we,
it could be your,
that,
you could be
have
your
different
child,
questions.
grandchild, something like that. I think just putting community member maybe in question 1 kind of captures everyone. And you're not going to answer every question. People probably aren't going to answer every question, but
Go crazy.
I don't know. Seth has been patiently waiting with his hand up. Seth?
Sorry, I hit the hand button, not the mute button. So, my question is actually related back to the website. So if you want to finish any conversation about the surveys first and then come back, I'd be happy to put my hand back up if we should wait some more.
I don't have anything else.
Yeah, just if anybody does have suggestions, those are great suggestions, both Mike and Lisa. Shoot them in an email once you kind of look through this and thought to me, and I will pass them on to Shannon right away, because we're trying to get a version of this sort of finished by August so that we can not necessarily send it out August 1st per se, but just have it, she can move on with her list of things that she's working on. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Mike has one thing.
My concern is, false responders who may not necessarily have children or interest in our community. Somebody, in East Overshoe, and I don't know why somebody would take the survey, but is there a methodology by which we can determine, or I'd be worried that we get people filling out the survey who really have no interest, that are from a different area. I don't know how we take care of that, or if it maybe is not a problem at all.
So Mike, we can talk with Greg about particular safeguards we can put around a survey, particularly on the websites, things on those lines.
Yeah, just so we don't have people from East Overshoe that are giving us feedback that really is not appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, if people have that kind of spare time, I have a ton of things that they could do. But yeah, you're right.
Front Porch Forum sometimes has a interesting clientele.
I'm honestly not sure. This is a question we had about Front Porch Forum because, it's very town-based.
Yeah.
Right, and they don't have our geographic boundary for our district is not how Front Porch Forum works. So that's something we're going to look into. I don't know if that's a possibility yet, but yeah. So general feedback would be putting in more questions or altering slightly the wording of some of the questions to be more inclusive of community members that aren't directly tied at this time to schools. And if anyone has other pieces they'd like to see in there, this is the draft, so definitely let me know. We did sort of focus it on our immediate community in terms of, but making it broader is great, because I think Mikey said too many surveys is also a bad thing, which I have experienced in my academic career. So yeah. Having one and done would be great. We just also want to keep it fairly short, and we want the questions not to be too vague either, because then people don't understand what we're trying to ask. So
okay, all right, let's have Seth has a website question.
Yeah, go for it, Seth.
Yeah, so as you were mentioning that and going through, I took a quick look at them and you heard down Shannon asking for tech tickets, etc. I found a few things. I was going to submit the tech ticket and it failed on the Prove Your Human question. So I do want to just point something out. Prove Your Human question is a simple math question, right? Like mine was literally what is 3 plus 3. I answered it with 6, S-I-X, and it rejects it because you typed the word. So we may want to consider a different way. And that being said, and so it deleted all of my comments. Honestly, I'm sitting here frustrated, not wanting to fill it in. But
so that's on the tech ticket piece, right?
That's on the tech ticket, but really quickly.
I think the important piece we've learned is that Seth is a robot.
Exactly. which may make me ineligible for future board meetings. So, but just really quick, so first and foremost, they're definitely starting to look great. and evolving nicely. So that's the first really cool thing. Really quickly, Polteny Elementary School, there's like a kindness wall that needs a subscription update, because basically you're just seeing that there's a out-of-date subscription. And then when I tried to click on the Polteny High School link on the bottom of the Polteny Elementary School page, it didn't go anywhere. It stayed in the Polteny Elementary School. When I went to Rutland Town and then clicked Polteny High School, it navigated there. So I think those links have a little bit of mix-up going on there. And that's all it was. That's what I was putting in my ticket, and that's it.
Okay, great, thank you. And yeah, test links, everybody, if you can, test links, and, you know, I'll ask Shannon or Greg about the help desk to get proving that you're a human being, and see if we can do that a different way, like just click a picture or something like that. I don't know. So I don't know how those things work, but I'll have them figure that out.
I did do that on purpose to actually test it. That was,
yeah.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Oh yeah, Kristen Keldry, yes, she says that the kindness wall thing is frustrating us right now. Shannon's been kind of working on that.
Okay.
So she is aware of that one that's being a challenge. There's a few things that she's struggling to get solutions for, and with people being on vacation, she's sort of waiting to find help to work on those. So, Joe Harrington, did you have? I thought you had your hand raised, but maybe you were just no. Okay.
I think he's doing
right,
Tai Chi.
The last thing I just want to let you all know is once the survey is, sort of finalized and rolled out, then we're not going to wait for the feedback for that, but we're going to start working on looking at a communication plan that would be big picture, something that's written and coherent for the district. And we're just going to take a crack at that as a committee, and obviously it's nothing we're going to decide without the full board, but we're just doing some of the pre-leg work to kind of find a model. Chris is going to talk us through a model that he's identified that he thinks would work for us, and kind of look at the components of that and set up how we might go about completing a communication plan, so that we have something, when board members change over, when staff change over, whatever, we have something written that kind of helps keep us focused over the longer haul. So that's kind of up and coming for this fall.
Okay. It sounds good. I'm glad to see the work that's happening. So thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, moving on to policies. This is the second read for the equity policy. Are there any questions, comments, concerns about the policy? Being that it's a second read, there shouldn't be. They should have come up already, but since we had a lot of conversation this evening, I will entertain conversation.
I just want to point out there's a bullet point typo that may be just a PDF issue, but there's a typo where a bullet point isn't in line with the rest of them in the first paragraph there.
Oh, gotcha.
There should be 4 bullet points, not 3, and it's just got moved over somehow to the end of the line. So.
Okay. Anything else? A motion would be in order to adopt to approve the equity policy, and we will, it will be on the agenda Wednesday night for the GRCSU for adoption.
Kristen Ross, I'll move that we adopt this equity policy with the typo changed.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it, Nate.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Aye.
Kristen Whitman, opposed?
I said aye.
Oh, okay. Motion passes unanimously. Future meeting dates, we have the board retreat, and our next meeting is August 16th. So I would encourage everyone to please try if you can, to make the retreat. I think it'll be helpful, particularly if you're a new board member, as we are going to have someone come and talk about board rules and responsibilities the first about half hour, 40 minutes of the retreat, to just kind of, and it's good for people that have been on the board just to re-up on that. It's going to be in person, so there's not going to be a call-in option. So that will be nice too, because we've never met some people. I've never met Nate in person, so that will be nice also. It will just be the board, Chris and David Walk, who will be the facilitator, and then the representative doing the Susan Olson doing the board update. All right, any future agenda items at the moment that anyone has to put on? If not, you can always email Chris.
The other one would be Jessica.
Jessica? Yes? Do you have a question, Jessica?
When is that date again, please?
It's August 2nd from 9 to 1.
9 to 1, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it'll be here at the central office meeting room.
Okay, great.
And we'll have snacks.
Oh, super.
I'll be there, I can't wait.
All right, great. All right, if there is nothing else to come before the board, motion would be in order to adjourn at 7:38.
So moved.
Motion by Seth, second. Oh, wait.
There's a raise.
Catherine? Question?
Hi, yeah, I'm from the Brandon Reporter, and just before you guys close out the Google Meet, I would love to just chat with somebody, so I'm sorry to interrupt the adjourn.
Okay.
But I just didn't want you to leave that out.
Okay. Jessica, is your hand up for something else, Jess? Oh, okay. All right. So,
Second for the close.
Mike makes a second. All those in favor? We are unanimously adjourned. So if you want to stay on the call, Catherine wants to chat with people.